they're off. Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Cheryl Penny.
Hello, welcome to another season of Around the Track. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Dynasty Financial Partners, Cheryl Penny, and I'm incredibly excited about this episode of Around the Track because I'm joined live here in Saratoga Springs on the Oklahoma track by my longtime friend, Tim Bello, who is the co-founder and managing partner of Merchant. Tim, thanks so much for sitting down and having this conversation.
Cheryl, it's great to be here. Thank you
Awesome.
so much, and it's great to be here on the Oklahoma track in beautiful Saratoga on a beautiful day with a good friend and a person I've been following for a long time. So great to be here.
The oldest sporting venue in America. So we're gonna have fun making our way around the virtual track together. And I know that this is a total waste of my time to try to tell you that there's any rules because you are not a rule follower.
Well, we do know each other.
Yeah,
Touché.
yeah. So we try to have one rule on Around the Track, which is we're going to try to make our way around the track with me asking you 8 rapid fire questions.
Wonderful.
In as close to 15 minutes as possible. So you
got it.
ready?
Absolutely, always.
All right, look, so in racing, how you break from the gate matters a lot. So let me give you a nice, easy one to get us going. Tell the listeners, the viewers about Tim Bello, whether you want to take that personally, professionally, up to you.
Well, look, I take everything personally because that's the way things really matter if we're honest with ourselves. And you know, I am who I am, and that's in and beyond the boardroom. And that means I'm somebody who, first and foremost, cares about my family. I care about my faith. I care about my community. And I care about working hard. And results matter. And I operate in a culture of accountability. But first and foremost, I'm a family guy. I'm from New Jersey. I'm proud to say that. And I'm like you, Cheryl. I like to chase the American dream every day. And as the great Denzel Washington says, hard work works.
Yeah.
So that's who I am, and that's where we are.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So before we talk about where you are now and where you're going with Merchant, let me just ask you to talk a little bit more about your background, because I think you've had really a fascinating journey to here in alternative investments, wealth management. Talk a little bit about your background leading up to being one of the co-founders of Merchant.
Yeah. Look, I mean, everything starts with a few first moments, and I'm thinking about the beginning and where we were together. And I sit here today, by the way, if I can take a quick moment to digress, holding a Dynasty mug. And, you know, I remember December 6, 2010, when you started this spectacular business. And I also remember the day that we sat and decided that it would make sense for me to come on as one of the early partners and get a front row seat to what has continued to grow and change the industry. So I just want to actually take a moment to say thanks for that opportunity. Thanks for the friendship. Thanks for the partnership. And that's kind of where I am today, right, is off the back of a lot of the on the job training we did together and that you afforded us, which truly has been invaluable to me. Now, before that, and before we went down that road together, preceding Merchant, it wasn't really what got me started, but who got me started. And it all began with somebody named David Officer, one of several initial mentors, who was one of the early founders and operators of a firm called Primal, which no longer carries its name. That business was one of the largest hedge fund of funds in the world. At the time, at one time, before Chip Mason purchased that business in November of 2005, that company was owned by the Agnelli family out of Italy and the Worms banking family out of Paris. So I had the good opportunity, the great luck, frankly, to work there because Mr. Officer, I guess, saw something in me and gave me a chance to be on time and stay late at work. So that's where my career started, at Primal. That business, as I said, November 05 was sold to Lake Mason. At the time, Peter Bain and Mark Fetting, who eventually became the CEO, were the deal captains of that transaction. So I was very fortunate to be there through that. Following that deal, I stayed on for a little while, and then I went and became a partner at a firm called Skybridge Capital.
Sure.
Which is where
that's where we met.
Which is where we met, and that's right. And I remember, like it was yesterday, you articulating with specificity the great business plan that has become Dynasty. And it was at that time at 527 Madison Avenue that you walked in with Todd Thompson.
Yeah.
And I was with Anthony Scaramucci, and at the time one of my now partners, Scott Prince.
Scott, yeah.
And you educated us on what the independent space would be. And with every ounce of healthy skepticism in my head and my heart, I did walk back to my office with that plan that day, and I said, there's something there, and I don't know if it's the plan, but I know it's definitely something that guy's going to do, and I want to stay close to him. And that's when we became friends. And then from there, look, my career kind of moved pretty rapidly. I was at Skybridge, and then I came and joined you. I think it was 1330 Avenue of the Americas, if I have the building number right, right below Silvercrest at the time.
Feels like a long time ago.
It is.
All right. So,
so there you go.
So thanks for that walk down memory lane.
Sure.
As you kind of think back about all of the experiences, and as you mentioned, the partners that you had there along the way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you learned a lot, probably on some things, what to do, but also what not to do.
Yeah.
What are some of those, kind of guiding or leadership principles that you've now brought to Merchant that you've picked up over the years?
Look, I mean, it's to me, it's do the simple things right, for starters. And as I said at the outset of this conversation, there's a wonderful speech Denzel Washington gives called Fall Forward, where he says a lot of powerful things. One of the things he says there that I carry with me through my career every day when I wake up, not just along the lines of what you say, which is culture of accountability and incentives drive behavior, but my whole thing is hard work works and people always matter.
Yeah.
They don't matter sometimes. They always matter. And especially in our business, right? We would agree. It's the late, great Bill Donaldson said, this is a business of people.
Yeah.
And you got to stay close to the people. And so in my career in at Merchant, like you have pushed forward with at Dynasty, the people matter. And the other thing I would tell you is oftentimes, it's very easy to look through the lens of what can be done for you. It's sometimes scarier and harder to consider what can be done to you, right, and what can happen to you. And therein lies the phrase and the practice of hurry slowly, right? I think at our point in our careers, probably earlier on, when it was all about growth, we didn't think about those things. Yeah. Now it's protect what you have, even before you build it.
Yeah. And live a more deliberate life, right?
Absolutely.
The older we get, the more we want to do that. So that's awesome. And
that's right.
Tim, I appreciate you mentioning Bill Donaldson, who many people may know or not know. He was one of the founding investors and board members. And you're absolutely right. In those early days, sitting in the board meeting with Bill, he wouldn't want to focus as much on the numbers. He would always say, tell me about the people. How's the culture? Get the culture right from day one. So thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
So, today, obviously, a big part of your role is focusing on the strategic direction, right, for Merchant, and overseeing, a pretty impressive pool of capital. And you guys have your hands in many different businesses in the ecosystem. What are some of the things that you're focused on now at Merchant that have you really excited about, whether it's specific to the firm, but the industry as a whole?
Yeah, there's a couple things in there, what you said, right? So for starters, just to frame it in context, right? We're 120 partners or hub partners. We're about $250 billion. We have an equity business, we have a credit business, and we've been investing in the equity of essential services companies for quite some time now as well. So the business has been around for, before we know it, it'll be a decade. So we're not around as long as Dynasty, but you and I have been growing together now for a while, and it's just been great. For Merchant, I think what I see from my seat is the, as you said before, the intentional evolution and maturation of the model that we have, and acknowledging the fact that sometimes it's not always right to be proactive, but one needs to react to the reality in front of them. And what I mean when I say that as it relates to the strategic direction of the firm is that when we started the business, we were minority, non-control, collaborative partners. That was something I said over and over again to myself in and out of boardrooms. That's somewhat changed because now we call ourselves life cycle partners, because you and I would agree that over the duration of what we've been doing, including the duration of some other careers alongside us, like some of your partner firms and our partner firms, everyone's at a different point in their life cycle. So Merchant has gotten to the point like you've been at with Dynasty for a while, where we can adapt. And this isn't arrogance, it's just confidence around the facts. We are prepared and are adapting as life cycle partners to any capital or otherwise need that these firms have. And more specifically, what that means is when we first partner with somebody, and historically would partner with somebody, it would typically be around the 20% range. Being a life cycle partner means that you don't just do things with equity at a minority level. You could do things with equity and credit at a majority or a full level. And that's a big thing that I think to hit your question, strategically has been at the forefront of what we've been doing. We've also been looking, like you have, and you've been there for a long time, at the forefront of technology. Again, what that means for us, how we have to integrate with it, acknowledge it, respect it, but not lose the human touch, right? That's another piece. And the last thing, which is near and dear to Dynasty, and something that we could probably and will work more on together as partners, is our spending time in the essential services space, right? So some of the services firms that we've invested in do and will continue to collaborate with some of the things that Dynasty offers into the market, so we can together make 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I enjoy now about our relationship is we also get to have shared clients.
Yeah.
And you guys, were nice enough to bring us in, with SageSpring, which I think, it has been and will be, I'm sure, a great investment for you guys. I'm super impressed with their team and their ability to grow and how they're building out their leadership team. And I know you guys have focused a lot on helping them do that.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question around leadership and team. And last year on Around the Track, I taped here a show with Avery Johnson,
Right.
Who's on our board as well. And nobody better in terms of talking about how you build elite teams than Avery. But I know, and you already referenced it earlier, it's such a big focus for you at Merchant. When you guys are evaluating a new partner coming in, or you can take it from the point, Tim, when you guys are evaluating a leadership team that you might invest in, what are you looking for in terms of the dynamic that makes a great leadership team?
Let me hit quickly on both of it, if it's okay.
Great.
A couple things. Mindset for leadership at the executive level for us, and I try to practice this and not be a hypocrite, but we're all imperfect, right?
Yeah.
Number one is, I'll just say it the only way I know it. Don't get drunk on your own Kool-Aid. You're only as good as your last at bat. It's amazing what fear will do, and you should wake up every day in your heart, as you've said, unemployed.
Yeah.
Right? Which
Only
is
the paranoid survive.
only the paranoid survive. So that's one of those things, right? It's like once you get put on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you start striking out. So be careful what you wish for. That's at the executive level. And by the way, that obviously moves over into I don't even want to call it underwriting. That's too formal. That's too institutional in a business of people. The get to know you part of our business, the art, not the science. The art's way more important. The art is what holds people together, not the science. The science isn't a commodity per se, but that's just the financial underwriting. When it comes to identifying what will be good to great partners at the CEO or principal or owner level of these wealth management firms, we look for the same thing I just described. But in addition to that, there's really 4 things. Yeah. One is, who's the person beyond the boardroom? How do they treat their friends? How do they treat their family? How do they treat people they don't know?
Yeah.
That's number 1. That weighs, if it were to be an algorithm, in my mind at least, for Merchant, 75% of the weight. If that's not good, there's nothing there. The second one is, when we're looking at partnering with people, is, are we able to arrive in different ways, in different instances, at the definition of fair? Too often in our industry, people don't try to achieve fair. They try to be successful in the spirit of, how can I get more from me today at this point in time and take more tomorrow? That's not, and this is a phrase that you threw in my head years ago, that's not built to last.
Right.
Okay, so we try to achieve fair. The next thing that we have to focus on when we look for great partnerships is being honest with ourselves around whether or not we can help somebody grow. Yeah. Dynasty is a growth partner. Merchant is a growth partner. It's why we're good growth partners for a firm together. Yep. In the case, as you said, of SageSpring. So can we grow businesses both organically, but more so inorganically, if Merchant's honest with itself? We're not going to go do the job to an aligned client anywhere near as good as the advisor themselves. We will help an advisor turn their practice into a business, into a financial services company. Right. Last thing, Cheryl, which again, for those that don't watch Cheryl, you should watch more often. You do a lot in terms of the broader strokes beyond finance, right? What else can we do together? Can we do philanthropic things? Can we help each other in ways that are not quantifiable? Whether it's pursuits of purpose, like the racetrack, or other things that maybe aren't right in front of all of us. And so those are the 4 things we look for when we're trying to identify and figure out if things are going to be right for Merchant and a partner firm.
Awesome. Love that. Well, very well said. One of the things also I enjoy when we get together, whether it's here or elsewhere, is we both like to be students of the game, right? We both love this industry that we're in. What are some trends that you're seeing in the independent space more broadly? And are there certain trends that concern you or certain trends that excite you?
I think the one thing, or the many things, if I'm honest, which you have to be, that that concern me is really centered around insecurity of not being a subject matter expert in all things. But that's just the reality of where we sit, right?
That's why teams matter, right?
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, and again, not to pat you on the back too many times here on your own show, but I'll do one final until I take.
That's how you get invited back, by the way.
Do I have to pay for the bagels next time?
Yeah.
What was the question?
You were about to give me a great compliment. I should have shut up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's move to the next one.
What are some shifts that you're seeing,
No.
positive or negative in the space?
So look, the technology thing, got to have a little fun here. We're trying.
Yeah.
The technology thing, don't worry, I'll stop speaking in complete sentences once the camera goes off. The technology thing can be scary.
Yes.
If people allow it to control them, and I don't mean literally. But I think the thing that's interesting, perhaps better said about that, is that we run the risk, if we don't respect it, of disintermediating ourselves from the human element of this thing. And I'll never forget, I was at a Fidelity event years ago speaking in Boston, and somebody in the back of the room, I don't know who it was, there were a few thousand, it felt like a few thousand people there, asked me a question. They said, well, it was a panel. They said to the panel, it was an open question, what would you do if Mark Benioff got in the industry tomorrow and started an RIA? And I'd say, well, first off, I'd say, well, the perception that this isn't here to stay is officially over, which, by the way, let's get back to that in a second. But I'd tell him good luck, because the technology can only do so much for you, because the most powerful thing that we agree exists, which has very little, if nothing, to do with technology, is the relationship between the advisor and the client, which Dynasty has stood for from the beginning. So with that said, that kind of concerns me a little bit about tech getting too far in front of us, pulling us instead of us, keeping up with it. That's one thing. Another thing, though, that doesn't concern me, which is actually really exciting and indicative of a clear trend, and I don't know if I call it a trend or a state of just existence, is the fact that we have seen large businesses, not just great investors like the ones you have in your cap table, but institutions like Goldman Sachs and like John Waldron and the direction he's taking their wealth vision.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as Barry Summers and Wells Fargo and what he and Charlie Scharf are doing with Wells Fargo. So what we're seeing is, if we hold today relative to December 6, 2010, when Dynasty came out of the barn, it's a totally different world. Nobody is sitting with us in meetings anymore and saying, in the back of their minds, they never say it to your face, I wonder if this thing will be around much longer.
Right.
Okay, so I think we've long since seen the trend of everybody looking at this. Again, I'll end this point on this if it's okay. It feels to me like the wealth managers of today and the suppliers of the value, B2B and B2C, have become to the market what the hedge fund superstars were at the end of 2002.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where things are. I would tell you, Cheryl, people used to look at independent wealth management as a lane of financial services. I'll make the argument, I think we both would make the argument on the record, that wealth management is the financial services industry.
Right.
Everything, whether it's manufacturing, distribution, technology, it caters to the consumer.
There.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry to be long-winded.
No. I appreciate that. And one of the things that I think is underappreciated, whether it's Merchant or Dynasty, we both now have helped advisors start and grow many $100 million plus enterprise. And a lot of people don't realize this. There are billionaire advisors.
It's unbelievable.
But the billionaire advisors are only on the independent side.
That's
right.
That's
so
true.
Because they took the risk of going independent, they built their business, whether it's organic or inorganic, and ultimately had a monetization event. So I know we're both seeing this, but larger and larger teams are now going independent because the path has been paved. So let me ask you the next question as we turn for home. We're in the backstretch now. Only 2 questions left.
Okay.
What are some of the? Because I know you're talking to also breakaways. You guys, kind of operate in the ecosystem more broadly. We're seeing these mega private wealth teams now coming in the space. Why is that, and what are they saying to you when they're evaluating their options?
You know the answer better than anybody, but I appreciate you asking the question. Well, I'll use your own words. A lot of them, well, all of them, see inevitably that, they're all running towards, not from, is the first thing I would say.
Yep.
So I don't think at any point in time, now or in the future, do we ever need to, nor should we as an industry, point the guns, point the finger, play the blame game on any bulge bracket, wirehouse perceived to be captive environment. Let's just take that off the table. Let's just say that all these custodians that are big value add providers, they're America's coffee can. I've heard you say that too.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that these entrepreneurs are all running towards is just that. The pursuit of the American dream, being an entrepreneur, not perhaps being called CEO, but building something that is reflective of experientially and monetarily their life's work. It also puts them in the best position, Cheryl, to be a true steward, not just of the capital, but of the experience of the client. Because as we've both talked for many years about, the only way, I should take that back, the optimal way that you can do that is to be independent, which means you're an institutionally covered client of the street.
Right.
And so that's where they're all headed.
Professional buyer, not a professional
There you
seller.
go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's still early innings, and it's a good time to be doing what we're both doing. So,
Yeah.
all right, last question. Same question I ask everyone on Around the Track. What is your triple crown? What is that big, seemingly unattainable goal that has you, jump in? I know you're an early riser, so what has you jumping out of bed in the morning, excited to go after, whether it's personal or professional?
My triple crown. There's a lot there, but I'll keep it brief. The hardest thing I think to achieve every day is not monetary. It's psychological freedom and acceptance of, achieving a series of goals that help you really be happy. I think so many people have a hard time feeling happy about where they are, and that then doesn't inspire them to go forward to the next step and the next step. And so really just believing in yourself, waking up every day, looking at my wife, Chastity, looking at my children.
Yeah.
Loving them the right way.
You married up, by the way.
I did. Well, we all do, Cheryl. Let's be honest. That's what it is, Cheryl. It's not a very complex question. It's not a very complex answer. It's a short and a sweet one, but it's a real one. It's my family. It's my friends. And I'll tell you this, as we all would agree, without health, happiness, and peace, you really don't have that much going for you. So trying to get that every day, family, health, happiness, if those things are taken care of, I think I'm pretty happy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, your family's here with you. They're
Yes,
beautiful.
Sir. Thank you.
You look as healthy as maybe I've ever seen you. So
Yes, sir.
you're checking off a lot of those boxes.
Thank you.
Tim, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation.
I really do. Thank you.
And thank you to all of you, too, for tuning in to another edition of Around the Track.